A millionaire brought a homeless girl to his ex's wedding. What happened left everyone speechless. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new dramatic stories. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more cinematic love stories like this one. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let us return to tonight's story about a man who once lost everything except his pride and a woman who had nothing left but hope. It was a rainy night in Manhattan. The streets shimmered under the yellow glow of streetlights, and the steady rhythm of raindrops echoed off passing cars. Ryan Carter, a 34-year-old real estate millionaire, sat alone in the back seat of his black sedan, staring at a white envelope in his hand. Inside was a wedding invitation from his ex-fiancée Vanessa Gray. The woman who had once promised forever was marrying his biggest business rival next weekend. He let out a low laugh, not bitter, not sad, just empty. His driver asked quietly, "Home, sir?" Ryan hesitated, eyes drifting toward the rain-soaked sidewalks outside. "No. Keep driving." At a red light, he saw her. A woman sat on the curb, her knees drawn to her chest, a torn blanket around her shoulders. Her hair was drenched, her shoes mismatched, and beside her sat an old suitcase that looked like it had lived 100 storms. People walked by without a glance. Something in her stillness stopped him. He tapped the window. "Pull over." The door opened and the cold air rushed in as he stepped out holding his umbrella over her. "Miss," he said, his voice steady but low. "What are you doing out here in this weather?" She looked up. Her eyes were clear but tired, the kind of tired that came from more than sleepless nights. "Just waiting," she murmured. "For what?" She gave a small, humorless smile. "For the rain to stop, I guess." Ryan glanced at the invitation, still in his hand. A reckless thought flickered in his mind, one that made no sense, yet felt oddly right. He crouched beside her. "If I told you I needed someone to go to a wedding with me tomorrow, would you come?" The woman blinked, unsure if he was serious. "A wedding? You are joking." "I am not." His lips curved faintly. "You would get dinner, a warm hotel room, and $200 for your time." She studied him for a long moment. "Why me?" "Because," he said quietly, "you look like someone who does not care what people think." Her name was Mia. She was 27, once a waitress, now without a home after the diner where she worked shut down. The offer sounded insane, but so did her life lately. Finally she nodded. "All right, mister. What is your name, Ryan?" "Ryan Carter." "Okay, Ryan Carter," she said softly, standing to her feet. "You have got yourself a wedding date." He opened the car door for her. The driver's eyes widened but said nothing. As the door closed, the world outside blurred behind rain-streaked glass. Mia leaned against the seat, silent, still dripping from the storm. Ryan handed her a towel from the console. "Dry off. You will not impress anyone if you catch a cold." She gave him a small smirk. "I doubt anyone at that wedding will care if I do." Ryan looked at her reflection in the window, this woman with nothing left to lose, agreeing to stand beside him in front of the people who once humiliated him. For the first time in months, he felt a strange kind of peace. Outside, the rain kept falling, washing the city clean of its noise. Inside the car, two strangers sat side by side, each hiding a story, each about to change the other's life forever. The next morning, sunlight broke through the thin gray clouds over Manhattan. The rain had stopped, but the streets still glistened like glass. In the corner suite of the Parkline Hotel, Mia stood before a full-length mirror, almost not recognizing herself. Her tangled hair had been washed, her bruised hands moisturized, and her simple blue dress, borrowed from Ryan's assistant, fit surprisingly well. Ryan walked in holding 2 cups of coffee. He looked polished as always, his tailored gray suit pressed, his watch gleaming under the light. When he saw her standing by the window, he paused for a moment. She was still the same woman from the night before, but now there was light in her eyes instead of rain. "You clean up well," he said, offering her a cup. She accepted it carefully. "Thank you. I almost feel like someone else." "That is the idea," he replied with a faint smile. "Today you are not Mia from the street. You are my guest, my partner for the afternoon. The people there are particular." Mia gave a nervous laugh. "Particular." I think that is your polite word for rich and judgmental. Ryan smirked. Exactly, but you will be fine. Just stay close to me, and remember none of this matters once the night is over. She nodded, but inside her heart fluttered. It was not about the gown or the car waiting downstairs. It was about walking into a world she had always watched from the outside. By noon, the luxury sedan rolled up to the gates of the Grand Belrose Hotel. Cameras flashed near the entrance, guests dressed in glittering gowns and black tuxedos stepping out one by one. Ryan exited first, his expression calm composed. Then he turned and offered his hand to Mia. For a moment she hesitated. Then she took it. The warmth of his hand steadied her. Together they stepped into the lobby, the sound of music and laughter washing over them. Every head turned. Conversations paused. Vanessa, radiant in a silver gown, froze mid-sentence when she saw them. The man she once left standing alone was now walking toward her with a woman no one recognized but who carried herself with quiet confidence. Ryan Vanessa greeted with a smile that did not reach her eyes. You came after all. And you brought company. This is Mia, he said evenly. She was kind enough to accept my invitation at the last minute. Mia extended her hand. Congratulations, Vanessa. It must be wonderful to marry the man you truly love. Vanessa blinked, unsure how to respond. The polite sting in Mia's words hung in the air like perfume. Ryan fought the urge to smile. The guests whispered, curious. Throughout the ceremony, Mia played her role gracefully. She did not speak too loudly, she did not overstep, and when she laughed at something, Ryan said it sounded genuine. For a man used to boardrooms and negotiations, Ryan found her presence oddly calming. During dinner, a guest leaned across the table and asked, "So Mia, how did you two meet?" She looked at Ryan, then answered softly, "By chance. I was in the wrong place at the right time." A few chuckles followed, but Ryan caught her eye and felt something shift inside him. There was truth in her words, a truth neither of them had planned for. As the evening wound down, Vanessa approached again, champagne flute in hand. "You have changed, Ryan," she said smoothly. "I never thought you would bring a stranger to an event like this." Ryan met her gaze. "That is the thing about strangers, Vanessa. Sometimes they remind you who you really are." Mia stood beside him, quiet but steady. The woman who once slept under a bridge now stood beneath crystal chandeliers, surrounded by people who would never guess where she came from. When they finally left the ballroom, Ryan helped her into the car. The night air was cool, carrying the faint scent of roses and rain. She turned to him. "I know you said this does not matter after tonight," she murmured. "But it kind of does it not?" Ryan looked out the window before answering. "Maybe it does." As the city lights blurred past, both of them sat in silence, realizing that their arrangement, born out of pride and impulse, had just begun to mean something neither could name yet. The following day, Ryan's penthouse looked unusually bright. Sunlight streamed through the wide glass windows, touching the marble floor with gold. Mia stood near the edge of the balcony, clutching a mug of coffee, her hair pulled into a loose ponytail. Below them, the city buzzed as if nothing extraordinary had happened, but for Mia, the night before still felt unreal. Ryan walked in from his study, his tie already half done. "Sleep well?" he asked. "I tried," she said with a small smile. "Hard to sleep after pretending to belong in a room full of diamonds." He chuckled quietly. "You did more than belong, Mia. You handled yourself better than most of the people who live for that kind of attention." She turned to him. "That is because I did not care what they thought. I only cared about not embarrassing you." Ryan's gaze softened. He had expected her to stumble, to feel out of place. Instead, she had carried herself with quiet grace. The way she looked at Vanessa, the way she spoke every moment, had silenced the people who used to whisper behind his back. "I meant what I said last night," he told her. "You reminded me who I am." "Then we are even. You reminded me that kindness still exists." There was a pause, gentle, steady, like the city's hum below them. Ryan finally said, "You do not have to leave right away. I asked my assistant to prepare a guest room." Stay a few days. Rest. No strings attached. Mia hesitated, but the warmth in his tone disarmed her. All right, she said softly. Just a few days. Later that afternoon, while Ryan was at a meeting, Mia wandered through the apartment. Every surface gleamed, every book neatly arranged. Yet the space felt strangely cold, untouched by laughter or life. She found herself pausing at a piano in the corner. A thin layer of dust covered the keys. She pressed one gently. The note rang pure and lonely. When Ryan returned, he found her sitting there. You play only a little, she admitted. My mom taught me when I was a kid. We used to play together until we lost the piano. Ryan smiled faintly. My mother loved to play too. After she passed, I never touched it again. Silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken memories. Then Mia said quietly, You should play again, even if it hurts. That evening over dinner, Ryan finally asked what he had avoided all day. What will you do after you leave here? She shrugged. I will figure it out. Maybe try to find work again. It is easier to look for a job when you have had a good meal. He studied her expression. You do not have to start over alone. I know people. I could help. She looked at him, half smiling, half sad. Ryan, you have already helped enough. You gave me one night where I did not feel invisible. That is more than most people get. He wanted to argue, to tell her that what he offered was more than charity. But the sincerity in her eyes silenced him. She was not a woman chasing wealth. She was someone trying to rebuild her dignity. Later, as they stood by the window, the city glowing beneath them, Mia whispered, You really loved her, did you not, Vanessa? Ryan took a slow breath. I thought I did. But last night, watching her, I realized I was in love with who I wanted her to be, not who she truly was. Mia nodded gently. Then maybe you are freer than you think. He looked at her, then really looked, and for the first time saw not a stranger from the rain, but someone who had quietly stepped into his world and brought it back to life. When she finally turned to go to her room, Ryan stood alone by the window. The city lights reflected in his eyes as he murmured to himself, Maybe some mistakes are exactly what we need. A few days passed quietly. The city outside kept moving at its usual fast rhythm, but inside Ryan's penthouse time felt slower, almost gentle. Mia had settled into a small routine, making breakfast, watering the plants on the balcony, humming softly while folding the clean towels that the maid used to ignore. Ryan noticed these small changes. His home, once silent and cold, now carried the faint warmth of life. One morning, he found her standing by the window again, watching the skyline. Do you ever get tired of all this? She asked without turning around. He stepped beside her. You mean the view, I mean the loneliness that comes with it. Ryan looked out at the sea of skyscrapers. I used to think success was enough to fill the silence. Now, I am not so sure. Mia turned to him with a soft smile. Then maybe you just needed someone to talk back. He laughed quietly. Careful, you might make me forget I paid you for that wedding. She crossed her arms playfully. Please, if that was payment, I was underpaid. They both laughed. For a brief second, the sound felt like something neither of them had heard in a long time. Comfort. That evening, Ryan invited her to join him at a charity gala hosted by his company. It will be different from the wedding, he said. More business than emotions. Mia hesitated. You want me to go as your date again? Yes, he answered simply, but this time no pretending. Just come as yourself. When they arrived, the ballroom shimmered with gold light. Waiters moved between crystal chandeliers, carrying trays of champagne. Ryan was greeted by investors and executives, but his eyes often drifted toward Mia. She looked beautiful in a simple navy dress, nothing extravagant, yet she glowed with quiet confidence. During a speech, one of Ryan's board members, Mr. Callahan, leaned in and whispered, You certainly traded up, Carter. This one actually smiles. Ryan's jaw tightened, but before he could respond, Mia turned and said calmly, That is because he makes me feel safe, not owned. The man blinked, taken aback. Ryan smiled slightly. It was the first time anyone had defended him without expecting anything in return. After the event, they stepped out to the balcony, overlooking the river. The city lights flickered across the water. Mia hugged her arms, feeling the chill. Without a word, Ryan slipped off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. She looked up at him, eyes reflecting the city's glow. You know that is the same thing you did for me the first night we met. He smiled softly. Maybe I am just consistent. They stood in silence, close enough for their breath to mingle. The sound of the river filled the space between words. Mia finally spoke, her voice almost a whisper. Ryan, if last week never happened, if you had never seen me on that street, what do you think you would be doing right now? He thought for a moment. Probably staring out of my window, pretending I was fine. And now, he said, looking at her directly, I am wondering how something that began as a lie started to feel like the truth. Mia's breath caught. She wanted to say something, but the words would not come, so she just nodded, her hands buried in the sleeves of his jacket. Inside the ballroom, the music changed to a slow jazz tune. From where they stood, they could see couples dancing under the chandeliers. Ryan glanced at her again. Dance with me, Mia hesitated. I do not really dance. Neither do I, he said, offering his hand. But maybe we can learn together. She laughed softly and placed her hand in his. There on the balcony, under the quiet hum of the city, they moved awkwardly at first, then slowly fell into rhythm. For the first time, it did not feel like a performance. It felt real. The following morning headlines hit every business blog in the city. A photograph from the charity gala had gone viral. Ryan Carter, one of the city's youngest real estate tycoons, dancing with a mysterious woman in a navy dress under the moonlight. The article called her the unknown lady who stole the CEO's spotlight. Ryan saw it first while scrolling through his phone at breakfast. He frowned, half amused, half concerned. When Mia entered the room, still wearing his oversized sweater from the night before, he turned the screen toward her. Congratulations, he said dryly. You are officially famous. Her eyes widened. You are joking. He shook his head. If only. Apparently, people love a good mystery. They are calling you the girl who smiled at a millionaire. Mia groaned, covering her face with both hands. Oh no, this cannot be good. It will fade in a few days, he said calmly. But maybe stay off social media until then. She nodded, though something uneasy flickered behind her smile. Fame was never part of her story. By noon, Ryan's office buzzed with calls and whispers. His assistant entered holding a newspaper. Mr. Carter, Vanessa Gray requested to meet you, she said. She says it is urgent. Ryan's jaw clenched, but he nodded. Fine. Send her to the conference room. When Vanessa arrived, her tone was sharp, her posture perfect. I suppose congratulations are in order, she began. You finally learned how to get attention again. Ryan leaned back in his chair. Is that why you came here, Vanessa? To critique my dance moves? She ignored the jab. You are being reckless. Bringing that woman into public like that, it makes you look desperate. He stood slowly, his expression cooling. Desperate is pretending to be happy while measuring your life in headlines. I am done with that. Her eyes narrowed. So this is real. You and her. Ryan met her gaze steadily. It is honest. That is more than what we ever were. She said nothing else, only turned on her heels and left. That evening, Mia waited for him at the penthouse, sensing something had changed. When he walked in, she saw the tension in his shoulders. Vanessa came by, did she not? He nodded. She warned me that being with you would ruin my image. Mia set down the glass she was holding. Maybe she is right. You are a man who lives under cameras. I am someone who lives between bus stops. Ryan looked at her sharply. Do not say that. You are more than what happened to you. I know, she said softly, but the world does not. The silence stretched between them until she finally whispered, Maybe I should go. Before this turns into a scandal that hurts your career. He took a step closer. Mia, you are not a mistake. You are the only real thing in my life right now. Her eyes shimmered, torn between gratitude and fear. Then why does it feel like I am standing in the wrong world? Ryan hesitated, but before he could answer, his phone buzzed again. His assistant's voice was tense. Sir, you need to see this. Someone leaked an old document from the wedding. The press is claiming you paid a woman to act as your date. Mia froze. They think you hired me. Ryan ended the call and looked at her, regret already shadowing his face. Someone must have found the agreement I wrote that first night. The realization hit her hard. So it is true. There was a contract. It was never about that, he said quickly. It was just The beginning, but the hurt had already surfaced. She stepped back, her voice trembling. To you, maybe it was the beginning. To me, it was the only thing that ever felt real. She turned and walked toward the door, the sound of her footsteps echoing through the marble hall. Ryan did not move. He just stood there staring at the open doorway as the city lights flickered outside, realizing that the truth he had hidden might cost him the only person who ever saw him as more than a name. The next 24 hours felt like a storm that would not end. News outlets replayed the same headlines again and again. Millionaire paid homeless woman to pose as his date. Every network speculated, twisting the story into something cruel and sensational. Ryan sat in his office, his phone buzzing nonstop. His company's public relations team demanded a statement. Investors wanted assurance, and in every question, there was the same unspoken accusation he had turned love into a performance. He ignored them all. He just wanted to find her. Mia had disappeared. Her phone was off, her few belongings gone from the penthouse guest room. Ryan checked every shelter he knew, called every contact he had in the city, but no one had seen her. By the second night, exhaustion caught up with him. He stood by the window of his apartment, staring at the skyline that had once made him proud. Now it just felt like glass and distance. For the first time, he realized how empty success was without honesty. He had built towers, not connections, and somehow the one person who had seen through all of it was now gone because he had failed to tell her the truth in time. 3 days later, he found her. She was at a small community kitchen on the east side of the city, serving soup to a line of strangers. Her hair was tied back, her sleeves rolled up, and there was a calm in her movements that broke his heart. He stepped inside quietly. The volunteers turned to stare. Everyone recognized his face from the news. Mia froze when she saw him, the ladle trembling in her hand. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice steady but cold. "I came to apologize," he said. "I should have told you everything from the beginning." She set the ladle down and faced him fully. "You should have trusted me. I did not care about your money, Ryan. I cared that you treated me like I mattered." "I know," he said quietly. "And I destroyed that. I am not here to make excuses. I just need you to know that what I feel for you is not part of a contract. It never was." Mia crossed her arms, tears burning behind her eyes. "The world thinks I was bought. Do you know what that feels like? To have people point and whisper that you are a price tag." Ryan swallowed hard. "Then let me fix it." She laughed bitterly. "You cannot buy the truth, Ryan." He shook his head. "I am not trying to. I want to prove it. To everyone. But more than that, to you." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then one of the older volunteers approached, whispering, "Miss Mia, we are short on cups again." She nodded and excused herself, walking past him without another word. Ryan watched her go, the sound of her footsteps fading behind the clatter of dishes and murmured prayers. That night, Ryan called a press conference. Cameras lined the room. Reporters filled every seat, hungry for drama. But when he stepped up to the microphone, there was no anger in his eyes, only clarity. "I am not here to deny what you have read," he began. "Yes, there was an agreement. I asked someone to help me face a painful memory, but I never expected to find someone who would teach me the meaning of dignity." He paused, looking directly into the cameras. "Her name is Mia. She is not a mistake. She is the best decision I ever made. And if my reputation falls for saying that, then let it fall." The room went silent. No one moved. Later that evening, as the story spread across every platform, the tone began to change. The public, who once mocked, now started to listen. People posted about his honesty, about her strength, but none of that mattered to Ryan. He was not seeking forgiveness from the world, only from her. He looked out at the city lights, whispering into the quiet, "Mia, I hope you hear me." The morning after Ryan's public confession, the world felt different. The rain had finally stopped and the sunlight poured through the glass walls of his office, bright but cold. The press called his speech reckless, honest, and foolish all at once. His board was furious. Several investors threatened to withdraw. But Ryan did not care. For the first time in his life, the truth was louder than money. His phone vibrated again and again with messages, but he ignored them until one text caught his eye. It was from a number he did not recognize. She is at the old train station on Fifth Avenue. Thought you should know. Ryan did not think twice. He grabbed his coat and left the building without a word. The train station had been abandoned for years, its tiled walls cracked, its benches empty. Mia sat on one of them, a small backpack at her feet. She looked up when she heard footsteps echoing through the hall. He stopped a few steps away, breathless from the run. You were really going to leave, were you not? She met his eyes calmly. I have been leaving all my life, Ryan. It is easier than being somewhere I do not belong. You do belong, he said, his voice rougher than he intended. You belong with people who see you, not label you. Mia stood, her face soft but tired. That is kind of you to say, but it is not that simple. You said the truth out loud, and I respect that. But it does not erase what happened. I cannot unsee how the world looked at me. I do not want to erase it, Ryan said. I just want to build something better after it. Her expression faltered for a moment. Why? You could have anyone, Ryan. Someone easier. Someone who fits your world. He stepped closer. Because you are the only one who never treated me like a world to conquer. You just saw me. You spoke to me like a man, not a brand. Her eyes shimmered. You do not have to say that to make me stay. I am not trying to make you stay, he said. I am asking for another chance to deserve you. Mia looked down, her hands tightening around the strap of her backpack. You made your choice in front of the whole city. Now everyone will be watching us. I do not want to be your redemption story, Ryan. He shook his head. You are not my redemption. You are the reason I stopped pretending I needed one. She let out a shaky laugh, torn between disbelief and hope. You really are impossible, maybe, he said with a faint smile. But I am also not leaving until you tell me to. For a long time she said nothing. Then she sat back down on the bench. Do you know what I liked about you that first night? He shook his head. You did not try to fix me. You just offered a seat and an umbrella. He smiled gently. Then, let me offer one again. This time without conditions. The sound of a train whistle echoed from the tunnel below, even though no trains had run there for years. The moment felt suspended, fragile, and real. Mia looked up, meeting his gaze fully for the first time in days. I am scared, Ryan. I do not want to lose myself in someone else's life again. You will not, he promised quietly. You will always be you. And I will finally learn how to be me with you. Her eyes glistened, and for the first time she did not step back. Ryan reached out, and she let him take her hand. Outside, the city carried on, unaware that in a forgotten station beneath its streets, two people who had every reason to walk away finally stopped running. For the first time there was no contract, no performance, no deal, only a choice freely made. The following week Ryan kept his promise. He did not chase headlines or hide behind statements. He worked quietly, rebuilding what his public confession had shaken. Several investors had walked away, but the ones who remained respected him more than before. His company's shares dipped, then slowly began to recover. What no one knew was that every night, after the meetings and the noise, he went back to the same old train station, just to sit on that bench where she had once forgiven him. Sometimes Mia joined him, sometimes she did not. But every visit reminded him that honesty had a price worth paying. One evening, he found her there again, handing out paper cups of hot tea to a few workers passing by. She smiled when she saw him, a little cautious but not closed off. You keep coming back, she said softly. He nodded. It is quieter here. The world makes more sense underground. Mia chuckled, pouring him a cup. That might be the saddest millionaire quote I have ever heard, he laughed. Probably. But it is true. She looked at him carefully. How are things at the company? Better, he said. People are learning that a man can lose everything and still keep his name. I guess that is progress. Mia sipped her tea, thinking. You did not have to lose everything you know. You could have chosen silence. Ryan shook his head. Silence is what made me who I was before. I am done with that. A moment passed. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small folded envelope. He handed it to her without saying a word. She opened it slowly. Inside was a check, but before she could protest, he said, It is not what you think. It is for the community kitchen you work at. I have been there. They are running out of supplies. Mia blinked in surprise. Ryan, he interrupted gently, this is not charity. It is an investment. You gave me back my conscience. Let me give something back to the world that gave me you. Her eyes softened. You do not owe me anything. I know, he said. That is exactly why I want to do it. For a while they sat in silence again, listening to the distant hum of the city above. The wind moved through the tunnel softly, carrying the faint echo of traffic and rain. Then Ryan spoke again, his tone quieter. There is one more thing I want to do. What is that? He smiled faintly. Something honest. The next morning, news broke again, but this time it was different. Ryan Carter announced a new foundation named the Second Chance Project, dedicated to helping homeless individuals rebuild their lives through employment and housing programs. He refused to make a grand statement. He simply said, everyone deserves a seat at the table. At the same time, he had the train station restored and reopened as a small art and music space for the community. When the ribbon-cutting day arrived, the press lined the streets. But Ryan's attention was fixed only on the woman standing quietly in the crowd wearing a simple dress and a smile that felt like sunlight. After the ceremony, he found her near the back of the platform. So, what do you think? He asked. Mia looked around the transformed station, now filled with music and laughter. It is beautiful. You did it. He shook his head. No. We did. You gave me the idea. You said people need a place to belong. Her eyes filled with tears. You remembered. I remember everything, he said. As the lights above flickered softly, Ryan took a deep breath. I did not come here as a businessman today. I came as the man who met you in the rain. The one who still believes that mistakes can lead us to the right place. Mia smiled, eyes shimmering. And what place is that? He stepped closer, voice low. For the first time since that night in the rain, she did not walk away. The grand hall of the renovated station glowed that night with soft golden light. The sound of music drifted gently through the air as guests from every corner of the city gathered to celebrate the opening of the Second Chance Project. But for Ryan, the event was not about the press or the applause or the donors. It was about one thing, the woman standing beside him. Mia looked radiant but simple, her hair falling loosely over her shoulders, wearing the same navy dress she had worn at the charity gala months ago. It was no longer a symbol of pretense. It was now a reminder of everything they had overcome together. As the final speech ended, Ryan took the microphone one last time. Thank you all for coming tonight, he began. His voice carried easily across the room. This project was built on the idea that everyone deserves a second chance. I am living proof that it is true. And this place, this light, is because of someone who taught me that dignity does not come from status, but from how we treat one another. He turned slightly toward her. Mia, you changed my life in ways I can never repay. You showed me what it means to be honest, and you reminded me that love is not something we buy, it is something we build. The room grew quiet, the crowd sensing what was about to happen. Ryan set the microphone down and reached into his pocket. From it, he pulled a small velvet box. Mia froze her hand, flying to her mouth. Ryan took a step closer, his eyes never leaving hers. I once offered you a deal, he said softly. A contract that started with rules and ended with regret. Tonight, I want to offer you something different. No signatures, no conditions. Just a promise. He opened the box, revealing a simple silver ring, nothing flashy, just elegant and sincere. Mia, will you marry me? Not as a gesture, not to fix anything, but because I cannot imagine a single day without you in it. Tears filled her eyes before she could speak. Around them, the crowd faded into silence. Finally, she whispered, yes. 1,000 times yes. Applause erupted, but the world around them disappeared. Ryan slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into his arms. For a moment, all the noise of the city, the traffic, the cameras, the whispers, felt distant, unimportant. They stood in the middle of the place where their story had begun, under the same roof where brokenness had turned into hope. Months later, a small wedding took place in the same hall. No extravagance, no gold chandeliers, just music, laughter, and people whose lives had been touched by the foundation they built together. The walls were lined with photographs of the city's forgotten corners, now restored through the Second Chance Project. Mia walked down the aisle, her steps steady, her smile bright. Ryan waited for her, dressed simply in a black suit. When their eyes met, the rest of the world vanished again. The officiant's words were soft but clear. "Do you, Ryan Carter, take Mia Bennett to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do," he said, without hesitation. "And do you, Mia Bennett, take Ryan Carter to be your husband, for better or worse?" "I do." When they kissed, the audience cheered, not because of who they were, but because of what they had become together. Later that evening, as the lights dimmed and the guests left, Ryan and Mia stood hand in hand at the platform listening to the soft hum of the restored station. Mia rested her head against his shoulder. "Do you ever think about how strange it is that everything started with one wrong invitation?" Ryan smiled, tightening his hold on her hand. "It was the best mistake I ever made." Outside, the city glowed with life. Inside, under the archways of the station, a new chapter quietly began. No contracts, no pretense, only love, and a shared promise to keep giving others the same second chance they had found in each other. And somewhere deep in the tunnels below, the faint sound of an old train echoed like a heartbeat, steady, timeless, and true.